Hello and welcome to today's bite-sized PD on interpreting your reading map growth data. This chart, just to start off with, this chart is a great comparison. It basically is a guide to where students are in the nation on scoring, the average per testing window. We don't have our own norms set up in Canyons yet because we haven't had enough tests. But until we get that, you can use this chart to gauge where your students are in comparison to students across the country. Something to remember just as we move into this is a RIT score is not a Lexile score. Lexiles, we wanted students to grow by quite a bit, and a RIT score, you're looking at 2 points. So if a student's moving at 2 points, then they're in maintenance, and then that means everything is okay. So let's get into this. What you're going to want to do first is you're going to log in through clever.com with your Canyons School District credentials. And you're going to go on the main page here to Map Growth Reports. Scroll down to the bottom and you'll see Achievement Status and Growth, ASG, a summary with a quadrant chart. Once you go into there, there'll be Achievement Status and Growth Summary with quadrant chart. You're going to say whatever class period you want to look at. And you're going to choose fall. You're going to choose fall, so it's comparing fall to winter to the last test that you just took. Once you've done that, you're going to see a page that looks like this. You can see on the right, you have quite a few features. You can look at ethnicity, you can go by gender, you can look at what math's doing. For us, we're going to obviously stay in reading. But this chart's interesting because what happens is up in the right-hand corner, you have high achievement, high growth, and that's the ideal for our students. That's like the perfect spot that we want them to be in. Up on the left would be low achievement, but high growth. So that's a good secondary spot for students to be. They're making a lot of growth, but the achievement is still low comparatively. Bottom left corner, the pink corner, low achievement and low growth. I want to stay out of that one as much as possible. Or if I see a student who's in that one, I definitely want to investigate. Bottom right corner, which is the yellow corner, is going to be the high achievement and low growth. And you see this in classes with like more advanced learners sometimes. You'll see a lot of the high achievement, high growth, and high achievement, low growth in classes like that. So anyway, that's what that looks like. So in this class right here, I believe this is an honors class. This one is interesting right here as we look at it, just so you can see what's going on. We have students everywhere, but this especially has some low achievement, high growth. And as I was saying earlier, that's still a good spot for students to be. This is showing that they're making great gains. And if things are about growth, then these are your students who are making that kind of growth. If I'm looking at this right here, I'm going to want to see who this student is. And I can do that just by hovering over that little box and selecting. And I want to see who it is and start to investigate. Why does a student have low achievement, low growth? Has there been an attendance issue? What's the intervention? Do they need intervention? So on and so forth. So as I go in then, I'm going to we've looked at all of that. Up on the top, you're going to see that there is a spreadsheet. And you can go ahead and it'll bring you to this page. On the left of the screen, you can see that these correspond to that graph that we looked at. And then over here to the right, this is giving you the information on the student, including their fall scores and range, their winter scores and range, projected growth, observed growth, and then comparing. When we look in even further and on this page, you're going to see summary data by subject and course. And so here we basically have what are the percentage of students who met or exceeded the projected RIT score. In this class, 65.6 students did. The growth met the count of students who met or exceeded projected growth, and then the median conditional growth percentile. So it gives me an overview of what's going on. Again, this was in the achievement status and growth projection summary page. Things that have changed. If we look at earlier in the year when we talked about this, we had a class profile, we had student profile, and a family report. And you will notice there are some changes here now that there are 2 tests worth of information in here. So first off, let's just talk about what's the same. There's this page that basically just shows you how many of your students completed the test. So in this instance, 33 out of 35 students in this class have a RIT score. We get the whole class percentile here. So I can look, most students scored at or above the 50th in this class, in this language arts 8th grade class. What's the class average RIT score? What's the median percentile? So on and so forth. Test details by student is the same. So I can go in now and I can look, and you'll see I've blocked out the student names on the left. But if I want to see exactly where they are, and it'll give me a guesstimate of what a Lexile range might be as well, how long they took the test, when they took the test, what their RIT score is, their percentile comparative to the nation. Students are still grouped by RIT bands. So you can go here and this will do each band by 10 points. So it'll group your students by 10 points as they move up based on the test. And so you can, again, have another way to say, okay, who are my students who are excelling, who needs an intervention, who's on that cut point of moving into an area that we want them to be. Again, on here, you'll see the names of the students. I've blocked them out, but they're linked. So I could go in here if that wasn't blanked out, and I could just select the link to their name, and it would show me more about that student. We have the instructional areas tab, which is valuable, and it's at the top. And this gets us into information text, key ideas and details, information text, language, craft, and structure. So the areas that were tested and where all of my students are in relation to that instructional area. When I go in now, I can also look at this going back to that bar graph here with the 10-point increments, but now I can do it based on that instructional area. So again, informational key ideas and details. Now I can look and go, okay, here are where my students are. It's the same. We got instructional area details by students. I can break it down even further. Again, I can see I've got the colors there to easily show me what's going on. I can then go over and I can look to the right and see where they are in each of the instructional areas and see where the strengths are, where some intervention might be needed. So what is different? As we get into this, you'll see that there's this projected proficiency tab when you're in there. And if you go ahead and you select the projected proficiency, then what you're going to get is a page that looks like this. And this is actually a couple boxes on another page. But this is my class, right? And so I look at it and it's like my kids have 5 advanced, 12 proficient, and I have 8 below proficient. And it gives me that RIT score range right there so I can look at it and where they are. By student, I can also look at projected proficiency. I can see where they are. Over here on the right, I can see by spring, they think if you just maintain with that 2-point, then student A, the one on top, will be below proficient. Whereas, say, the second student will still be proficient, or the fourth one down, that student, even with only doing 1, would be advanced. So about spring cut scores, which we were just talking about over there on the right, basically there's the score ranges and the proficiency categories. You can use this as a reference to figure out where they're going to be, and you can use this to goal set. If we go out of class profile now and we go into student profile, what you're going to see here is similar to the last time, where you can go into reading. It'll give you the standard measure of error, possible range, how long they tested, all of that. But there's their score right there, the RIT score. What's valuable, again, is on the bottom. It gives you suggestions on how the student could benefit with further teaching. And so you could look at that and use that even if you're meeting with parents or having one-on-one with the student. What else is different is as you go into the student profile, it will actually show you in words the high growth, high achievement, where they are on that quadrant chart. So you could look into that. Again, a student profile, though, you have the similar ways to look at how do they do in each area, and you could use this to goal set. Here's this same student where on this one it just says high growth, high achievement. And then right here, there it is as a visual. So again, I could use that to goal set with my students. On the right, this is basically saying where map growth testing has been going on across the country. Oh, and we get a Lexile level 2. This student right here, this is an example of a student who's in low achievement, low growth. And so I might want to look at an intervention for this student. The correlated Lexile 495 to 645. So again, it's worth investigating. Why is a student low achievement and low growth? Here's a student who's on the border, but with high growth and low achievement. So they are moving forward, but they're still not there yet, but they're making strides towards getting there. Versus the last student who they're not there yet, and there's not really an indication that they're making strides to get there. Over here, from what we saw earlier, this student has low growth but high achievement. So they're pretty close to there, but they're not growing much. So you might want to investigate what's the deal with the student. Are they not showing up? Maybe this is a GT student that you would want to, that's been misplaced. If we go into the student profile instructional areas and you select these two areas in instructional areas, this will let you drill down even further. And you can go in, and what I like to do is make sure reinforce and develop are checked, and it tells me what should reinforce or where the student is ready to develop some skills. Over here on the right with growth goals, this one's interesting. You can select those two arrows and it'll bring up a page that looks like this. So if we look at this student right here, this student had really high growth but would be considered low achievement still because they're still in that orange area. If they just did the maintain, like we talked about earlier with 2 points, they're still going to be in the orange. So I would want to look at with the student, like maybe our goal setting is we want to get them in that green. And so maybe we need to have them, the goal would be 15 points for the student for the next time. And I'd want to think about whatever I'm doing that has caused such high growth. I'm going to be like, I want to keep doing that. What's interesting too is you can actually, it'll do a prediction for you on the ACT and the SAT. And so this student right here, the same student there's a different student, but this one who's moved up, it's basically saying that they're not on track for perfected proficiency on the ACT or the SAT. So you might want to consider that as well. How do we set that goal? This tool right here, it's fun to look at and in a real just intuitive way to see what's going on. I do wonder though, if I have 200 students, I'm probably not going to be goal setting for each, but this would be really valuable if I was an intervention teacher. Coming to the close here, we have the student reports and the parent reports. On the upper right hand, you can print and share a parent report for them. And the one you want to select right here is the family report PDF. This is a more concise, digestible report that'll be put out. The other one is 28 pages long and is full a lot of good information, but maybe information that people may not need. So I would go here to family report and it'll give you something that looks like this that you give to the family. Basically explains what this report is. It gives some of those graphs. It shows where the student's growth is, gives suggestions, and it gives some things, some questions that the parent could ask, parent or guardian could use to guide a conversation with the teacher. All right, so that right there is how to see some of the new features in the map reading growth and achievement. If you have questions or would like to look at your students more closely or use any of these tools, please don't hesitate to reach out to either myself or Leslie. Have a great day.